I was a tour guide in Iceland. On a clear night, we took a group out to see the Aurora Borealis. It was a spectacular display. An American woman tapped me on the shoulder and asked, with total sincerity, "What time do you guys usually turn them off?" I want to make sure I get enough photos before the show is over. I had to gently explain that we don't have a switch for the Northern Lights. She looked genuinely disappointed. Working at a hotel front desk in Florence, Italy, a guest from Texas called down furious. "My AC is broken. It's blowing hot air." I went up to his room to check. He had set the thermostat to 30 degrees. I explained that our temperatures are in Celsius, and he had essentially turned on the heater to full blast. He grumbled, "Well, why don't you use normal degrees like the rest of the world?" I overheard this conversation on a train from Amsterdam to Brussels. An American student was looking at a map and said to his friend, "Wait, are we leaving the country?" His friend replied, "I think so." The first guy panicked. "Dude, I didn't bring my passport. Do they check for that when you cross state lines here in Europe?" They spent the next 10 minutes worrying about being arrested at the state line. At a cafe in Paris, a woman ordered a latte extra large with skim milk and 2 pumps of vanilla. The barista politely explained they just serve a standard café crème. The woman huffed and said, "This is ridiculous. How can you call yourself a coffee shop and not have basic options? It's like you've never even heard of Starbucks." She then left in a huff without ordering anything. While working at the Tower of London, an American tourist asked me where the elevators were. I explained that it's a nearly 1,000-year-old castle and there are no elevators. He looked at me, disgusted, and said, "That's a clear violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. I'm going to report this place. It's completely unacceptable for a major tourist attraction." My cousin is a gondolier in Venice. He told me an American couple asked him if the water was salt water. He said yes. They then asked, "So do you ever see any sharks or whales in the canals?" He had to explain that while it's connected to the sea, the canals are a bit too shallow and busy for a humpback whale to be doing sightseeing of its own. I was at a traditional pub in Dublin. An American guy walked up to the bar and loudly announced, "I'll have an Irish car bomb." The entire pub went silent. The old bartender just stared at him and said, "Son, you've got 2 choices. You can apologise and order a pint like a normal person, or you can get the hell out of my pub right now." The tourist, clueless about the history, just got angry and left. In a restaurant in southern Spain, a family was complaining about the slow service. The waiter tried to explain the concept of siesta and that dinner service is a more relaxed, drawn-out affair. The father slammed his fist on the table and said, "I don't care about your siesta. I'm the customer and I want my food now. This is why your economy is so bad." I worked at a gift shop near Stonehenge. An American tourist came in and asked, "Excuse me, can you tell me why they built these rocks so far away from the city? It's a really inconvenient location. They get way more visitors if they moved it closer to London." I just blinked and told him I'd pass his suggestion on to management. A friend of mine was a flight attendant on a flight to Tokyo. An American passenger asked her if he would need to exchange his dollars for Japanese. She said yes, he'd need yen. He then asked, "Okay, but do they speak Japanese all over the country, or is it just in the big cities? I'm hoping to find some areas where they just speak American." Overheard at the Acropolis in Athens. "It's a shame they let this place get so run down. You'd think with all the tourist money they get, they could afford to fix it up and put a roof on it. It's just a bunch of broken pillars. Honestly, the replica at the Parthenon in Nashville is in much better shape." I was working in a cheese shop in Switzerland. An American woman asked to sample the Gruyere. After trying it, she made a face and said, "This tastes nothing like the Swiss cheese I get at Walmart. Are you sure this is authentic? It doesn't even have the holes in it. I think you might be selling a counterfeit product here." In a high-end chocolate shop in Brussels, Belgium, A man was sampling a dark chocolate praline. He made a face and spit it into a napkin. He told the chocolatier, "This is bitter and gross. It tastes nothing like a Hershey's bar. You guys should really learn how to make proper milk chocolate. You'd probably sell a lot more if you made it sweeter for the American palate." A young American was visiting the Anne Frank house in Amsterdam. After the tour, I overheard him say to his friend, "It was sad and all, but I feel like she was a bit dramatic. If they had a Ring doorbell, they would have seen the police coming and could have just escaped out the back. It seems like a major security oversight on their part." I was working at a vineyard in Bordeaux, France. An American couple on a wine tasting tour asked me if they could have some ice cubes to put in their glass of a very expensive aged red wine. When I hesitated, the husband said, "What? It's too warm. We always drink our wine on the rocks back home. It's better that way." I died a little inside as I went to get the ice. A tourist in Moscow was looking at the colourful domes of St. Basil's Cathedral. He turned to his wife and said, "I didn't know Disney had a castle in Russia. Look, it's the one from the beginning of the movies. I wonder if they do a fireworks show here at night too. We should come back later to see it." On a tour of the Great Wall of China, a man asked the guide, "So, which side was this wall built to keep out, the North or the South Koreans?" The guide was speechless for a moment, before gently explaining the wall's purpose was to fend off Mongolian invaders and that the Koreas were not involved. The man just shrugged and said, You learn something new every day." A young American couple was at a beach in Thailand. They were trying to pay for 2 coconuts with a US $50 bill. The vendor, who didn't have change, was trying to explain in broken English. The girl got frustrated and said to her boyfriend, "This is so stupid. Why don't they just take our money? It's worth more than their money anyway." I was bartending in Sydney, Australia. A tourist asked me what the drinking age was. I told him it was 18. He slammed his fist on the bar in celebration and yelled, "Yes, finally a country that understands freedom." He then proceeded to order a drink and showed me his ID, which clearly stated he was only 17 years old. In a market in Marrakesh, Morocco, an American was haggling for a rug. The shopkeeper offered a price. The American countered with, "I'll give you $20. The shopkeeper, confused, asked, "American dollars?" The tourist replied, "No, real dollars. You know, the green ones." He seemed to believe American and real were 2 different types of currency. A tourist in Egypt, standing in front of the Sphinx, asked his guide, "Who's the guy who built this? I'd like to write a letter to complain about the nose. It's completely broken and it ruins the whole statue. They should really hire someone to fix it. It's a safety hazard." I was on a bus in the Scottish Highlands. An American woman was staring out the window at the sheep grazing on the hills. She turned to her husband and said, "Look, honey, they have the wild sheep running free here. It's so organic. I wonder how they get them to stay on just one side of the road." At a hotel in Berlin, a guest called the front desk to complain that his TV wasn't working. I went to his room and saw that the TV was on, but it was on a German news channel. He said, "See, it's broken. It's speaking some weird language." I just picked up the remote and changed the channel to the international CNN broadcast. He was amazed. A man on my tour of Pompeii asked me, "So if the volcano erupted and killed everyone, how do we have so much information about what their lives were like?" I started to explain the process of archaeology and excavation, but he cut me off. "No, I mean, who survived to tell the story? Was there one guy who ran really fast?" Working in a cafe in Vienna, Austria, an American asked me where the kangaroos were. I politely informed him that he was thinking of Australia. He argued with me for 5 minutes, insisting that his travel agent told him he could see kangaroos in Vienna. He then demanded a refund for his coffee because his trip was ruined by false advertising. Overheard at a currency exchange in London. "I'd like to exchange $200 for euros, please." The clerk replied, "Sir, this is the United Kingdom. We use pounds sterling." The American looked confused and said, "But you're in Europe, isn't that like the whole point of the euro? So you don't have to deal with all these different weird currencies." A tourist was looking at the Mona Lisa in the Louvre. He turned to his wife and said, "It's much smaller than I expected. And honestly, the quality isn't that great. It looks like an old painting. I've seen better prints at Target. I don't get what the big deal is." A tourist at the Vatican asked a Swiss guard, "Are you guys actors, like the people at Disneyland, or are you actual soldiers?" The guard, maintaining his professional composure, simply stared straight ahead without answering. The tourist took a selfie with him and said, "Cool costume, man." I was working at a pub in rural England. An American couple came in and asked for a table. I told them to just grab any open one. They looked around, confused, and the husband asked, "But where's the hostess? Who is going to seat us? How do you run a restaurant without a hostess?" They seemed genuinely distressed by the concept of seating themselves. On a safari in Tanzania, a tourist saw a herd of zebras. He turned to the guide and asked, "Are their stripes painted on, or are they born like that? It just seems a little too perfect, you know? Like someone designed them for a movie." A woman in a Japanese ryokan, a traditional inn, complained to the staff that her bed was missing. A staff member escorted her back to her room and pointed to the neatly folded futon mattress in the corner. The woman was horrified. "You expect me to sleep on the floor? I paid for a luxury experience. I want a real bed with a frame and a box spring." I was working at a historical site in Kyoto, Japan. We require visitors to remove their shoes before entering the main temple hall. An American tourist flat out refused. He told me, "My feet are part of my personal identity, and forcing me to expose them is a violation of my rights. Besides, these are $300 sneakers. I'm not leaving them with a bunch of strangers." He then tried to argue that he should be exempt from the rules because he was a tourist. On a tour of the DMZ between North and South Korea, we were at an observatory looking across the border. An American in our group raised his hand and asked the guide, "So, is there a gift shop on the North Korean side?" "I'd love to get a souvenir from there. Can our bus just drive over for like 20 minutes? The guide, a former soldier, just stared at him until he uncomfortably sat back down. My friend leads hiking tours to Machu Picchu in Peru. He said an American woman complained the entire way up. When they finally reached the top, she looked around and said, "Okay, I see the ruins, but where's the actual city? Is this just the suburbs? I was expecting something more finished. It's a real fixer-upper." She genuinely thought it was an abandoned construction project. I was a bartender in a tiny traditional pub in the west of Ireland. An American tourist came in, saw the peat fire burning in the hearth, and immediately started panicking. He yelled, "Hey! Your chimney is broken! The whole place is filling with smoke." I had to calmly explain to him that the smell of a peat fire is, in fact, a desirable and iconic part of the Irish pub experience. He was not convinced. Overheard at the Colosseum in Rome. A teenager was on his phone, live streaming. He said to his followers, "Yo, what's up, guys? I'm here at this old Roman stadium." It's pretty wrecked, not gonna lie. The Wi-Fi here sucks, and they don't even have a jumbotron. Honestly, the Dallas Cowboys stadium is way more impressive. 0 out of 10 would not recommend. In a restaurant in Bangkok, an American woman called me over to her table. She pointed at her pad thai and said, "Excuse me, I asked for no peanuts in my dish." I looked at her plate, which had no peanuts, and told her so. She replied, "No, you don't understand. I can taste the essence of peanut in the air around me. Someone in this kitchen is using them, and it's contaminating my food's aura. I need you to remake this in a peanut-free room."